Welcome back. My name is Homai. In this video, we are going to go over the prep homework after graded 2 as well as graded homework number 3. We're going to walk through these in some significant detail, and hopefully this will be very, very helpful for you. So let's get started. So this is the prep homework after graded 2. This is dealing with 7th chords. So in this one, all 7th chord qualities. Identify the quality of each 7th chord, that's the type, whether it's fully diminished, half diminished, a minor 7th, a 7th, or a major 7th. Now, there's many different ways you can write this. You can see that they've given you some options, dominant 7, major 7. For these, I recommend just writing 7 or just the capital M7 because those are the most common ways that you'll see these written in the real world. Okay. All right, let's take a look at this. So they've given us an example. In example A, if we take a look, we've got C, E flat, G, and B flat. Again, we want to determine the type of triad and then the type of 7th. So let's break this apart a little bit. Let's look at the triad itself. C, E flat, and G, and I'll go ahead and bring back the keyboard so you can see C, E flat, G. Okay, that's a minor triad because you have a perfect fifth, C to G is a perfect fifth, and then a minor third, so a minor triad. And then the 7th, B flat, C to B flat. B flat is a whole step below the octave, C, so this is a minor 7th. Because remember, minor 7th is a whole step below the octave. Therefore, this is a minor 7th chord, or a minor 7th chord. Okay, again, if you're confused, go ahead and review my videos dealing with types of triads, types of 7th, intervals, as well as the 7th chords as well. Okay, you want to have a good grasp of that first before attempting these. Let's go ahead and do the next one now. We're in treble clef, so the notes are D, F sharp, A for the triad. So let's look at the triad first. D, F sharp, A. Okay, you probably can identify the sound already. This is a major triad. And then we want to determine the type of 7th. That's a C. So D to C. Well, what's the distance between C and the octave above D? It's a whole step, 2 half steps, so that's going to be a minor 7th. So if you have a major triad and a minor 7th, that makes a major minor 7th, otherwise known as a dominant 7th, or just a 7th. So we're going to write 7. Next, let's take a look at the triad. The triad is E, G sharp, and B. E, G sharp, and B. Well, that sounds major. It is major. We have a major third and a perfect fifth. And then the 7th is a D sharp. So E to D sharp. Well, D sharp is a half step below the octave, which means it's a major 7th interval. If we have a major triad and a major 7th, that's going to be a major 7 chord. Example D. I'll do a couple more examples with you here. Example D, we have an F, A, C for the triad. F, A, and C. Maybe I'll just highlight it. Ooh, that's a big highlighter. Let's not do that. F, A, C is the triad. The 7th will be F to E flat. F, A, C is a major triad. F to E flat is a minor 7th because it's a whole step below the octave. So a major triad minor 7th, that is our just plain old 7 again, otherwise known as a major minor 7th or a dominant 7th chord. And we'll do one more together here. Example E, we have G, B flat, and D flat for our triad. G, B flat, D flat, minor third, or minor third between the root and the third, diminished fifth between the root and the fifth. So this is a diminished triad. And our seventh is G to F. F is how far from the octave? That's right, it's a whole step, which makes it a minor seventh. If we have a diminished triad and a minor seventh, well, that's half diminished. Here, you can write half diminished seventh. Also, remember that this could be called a minor 7 flat 5. Okay? But save that for lead sheet notation. So that's how this first section works. Okay? You're just going through and identify the triad quality, whether it's major, minor, or diminished, and then determine the seventh, whether it's a major seventh, a minor seventh, or a diminished seventh. And then that combination will tell you what type of seventh chord you have. Okay? Next, writing seventh chords. So they're telling you to write each seventh chord in root position with the correct quality or type, whether it's a major seventh, minor seventh, a dominant seventh, or plain old seventh, half diminished seventh, or fully diminished seventh. Okay? So here, they give us two pieces of information. The first piece of information is the root. Okay, so that's the root of the chord. The second piece of information is the fact that it's what type of seventh is it. Okay? So we have the root and the type. That's all we really need. So in this example here, the root is an F sharp. So I'm going to draw an F sharp. Now I can already go ahead and fill in the rest of this because, you know, it's just going to be space, 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 space since it's a seventh chord. And it's in root position. Now it's F sharp 7. That means we're dealing with a major minor seventh or a dominant seventh, which means we'll need a major triad and a minor seventh. Okay? A major triad and a minor seventh. That's what we need. So that's what we need to build. So F sharp. Okay, let's build a major triad. We need to go 4 half steps for the major third. 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to turn that A into a sharp. Okay? Now we need a perfect fifth above F sharp. We use the circle of fifths. That's going to be C sharp. Okay? We could also count the half steps, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps will be a perfect fifth. The other method is you could do major third, which is 4 half steps, minor third, 1, 2, 3, 3 half steps above the third. Major third, minor third. So there are multiple ways to do this. So now we have our triad, and now we need a minor seventh. Well, here's the octave. F sharp to F sharp is an octave. A minor seventh is a whole step below the octave. 1, 2. So we need E natural. Well, it's already E natural, so we're done. Let's take a look at the next example. Our root is an E. Again, we can go ahead and fill in our other notes, E, G, B, D. It's a fully diminished seventh chord, which means we're going to need a diminished triad and a diminished seventh interval between the seventh and the root. So, diminished triad is composed of 2 minor thirds. So, 1, 2, 3 half steps, G natural, which it already is. And then let's build the next third. 1, 2, 3, B flat. So we need a B flat. That gives us our diminished triad, and now we need the diminished seventh. There's 2 ways we can do this. One way, we can start from the octave, E to E, and go down 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, which is a D flat. The other way we can do this is to go up from the fifth 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. Notice it takes us to the same note, D flat. Example D. The root of the chord is A, and we are in treble clef. So here's A. I'll go ahead and fill in the rest of my 7th chord notes. Space, 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 space. It is a half diminished 7th chord, which means we need a diminished triad and a minor 7th interval between the 7th and the root. So let's build our diminished triad. Here's the note A. 3 half steps up, C natural. It's already C natural. 3 more half steps up, E flat. We need to add a flat in front of this E. That gives us our diminished triad. Now we need a minor 7th. Well, that's easy. A octave, down a whole step. G natural. It's already G natural. A half diminished 7. All right, we almost did that entire line together there. I'll leave a couple for you to figure out on your own. Next, let's go down to this table. Complete the table to identify the position of each 7th chord. So I'm going to show you how to do this, all right? First of all, you'll notice the notes have been spread out between treble and bass clef, okay? So in order to do this, we need to put this in what we call closed position and to build this above the bass note. Okay, so let me show you how we do this. So the bass note in this case is here, this A here, right? So I could just build this above this A, but we just need to know that A is the bass note. So I'm just saying, okay, well the bass note is A. The bass note is A, that's the lowest note. I can build this above any A. Let's say I want to do this in bass clef. I can put the A down here. Then I'm just going to go to the next note up. It's F sharp, but I'm going to put it on the F sharp. I'm going to notate it on the nearest F sharp above the A, because the A is the bass. So we can't have any notes below this, because if we had any notes below the A, well then A wouldn't be the bass note, since the bass note must be the lowest note. So we're going to write F sharp, which is here. That's the nearest F sharp above the bass note. Next we have a C sharp. Well, where's the nearest C sharp above the bass note? It's here. And then the next note is an E. The nearest E above the bass note is here. So now I have redrawn this chord such that it's in closed position. Now I can see it visually. Now, you might remember my trick I showed you, but let me remind you. There's a very quick way to find the root of any chord. It's the first note, when you're reading us bottom to top, ascending, it's the first note that changes from either a space note to a line note or a line note to a space note. So if we look here, we have space note, space note, space note, aha, line note, which means that line note is the root of the chord. So the root of the chord here is F sharp. Okay? Well, then that makes life easy, because if you know that's the root, then the rest must be in order. Root, then going back to the bottom, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Okay? Because we stacked it in a closed hand position. Right? Another way of thinking of this is if that root was in the bass position, it would look like this, F, A, C, E. And now you can see the 7th chord in root position very easily. So we can fill in the rest of this information just by reading the notes. The 3rd is A. The 5th is C sharp. The 7th is E. We already know the bass because we needed to figure that out first. The bass is A. Well, that means the bass is the 3rd. That means we are going to be in first inversion for the position, right? Because the 3rd is in the bass. And what's the figured bass for first inversion 7th? Well, remember, if we look here, it's going to be a 6-5. Okay? So that's how that works there. Let's do one more together on this. All right, example G. Okay. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. And you don't have to build it right here. You can move it to a convenient place. Let's say that you don't like reading bass clef. Let's say you prefer reading treble clef. Fine. Build this in treble clef. So our bass note is B flat. We can already fill that out. The bass note is B flat here. Bass note is B flat. And this time I'm going to build it in treble clef just to make my life a little easier, because let's say I like reading treble clef. So I can build it right here. B flat, then I have D, F, A flat. You might notice immediately that they're all in spaces, which means this is going to be root position. Okay? All right, because they're all spaces. So the root is B flat, which means the bass is the root. Okay? Which means we're in root position, of course. The third is D, the fifth is A flat. F, excuse me. And then the seventh is A flat. Root position, since the root is the bass. And of course, the figured bass symbol for that is simply 7. Okay? All right, what the heck? We'll do one more example on this. Let's do one more example. And let's assume that you like reading treble clef again, okay? I know a lot of us do. So our bass note is C. That's our lowest note. So the bass is C. And I'm going to just move that up here to treble clef. And then I'm going to build the notes right above it at the nearest position. Okay, so here we have an F, then an A, then an E flat. Well, the nearest E flat above this is here. Okay, now you can visually see the inversion, right? Remember the trick I showed you? Look for the second. The second's in the middle. The second's in the middle, well, that means we're going to have a 4-3 inversion, or a second inversion. Okay. So we know what the bass is, but we want to know what the root is. Remember the trick I just showed you? Look for the first note that changes from a line note to a space note, or a space note to a line note. Let's take a look. Line note, space note. That space note changed, which means that space note is the bass note, or the root of the chord, excuse me. So that is an F. Okay. Then the third, which is going up now, is an A. Then we go back to the bottom since we went from the top, which is a C. And then up again to E flat. Next question we want to ask is, what is the bass note? The bass note is the fifth in this case. It's the fifth. All right? Which means we are in second inversion. Since the fifth is in the bass position, and the inversion symbol, the figured bass symbol we already talked about is 4-3. Okay? All right, again, we did most of it together. Left a couple for you to do on your own. Okay, of course, you could always just print the sheet out again and try it from scratch if you want. Next, identify the following seventh chords with standard chord notation. Do not use Roman numerals. Okay, so we're not going to do it quite like this, right? What they're calling standard notation here is really identifying the root of the chord, which in this case, example is C, and then the quality of the chord, which is minor, and then the figured bass, which is 6 here in this case, which tells us it's actually, we're not going to use this notation, form of notation. So, let's take a look here. What are we going to do? We're going to identify this by lead sheet symbol, and then also figured bass. Okay, so you're going to do it by lead sheet symbol and figured bass. Let me show you how this works. So the first thing we want to do is we want to identify the root of the 7th chord. Well, it's simple. Line, space. The space is the root. Okay, so we're going to write D, because D is the root of this chord. Next, we need to determine the quality, whether it's major, minor 7th, half diminished, that sort of thing. So to do this, I'm going to make my life easier. I'm going to rebuild this chord in root position, and I'm going to draw in my sharps. I have an F sharp and a key signature. Okay, so when you're determining the quality or the type, put it in root position. Make your life easier, because then you can see the triad, and you can see the 7th. Okay, our triad is D, F sharp, A. If you analyze that, you'll find out that it's a major triad. We have a major triad, and then D to C is a minor 7th, since the whole step below the octave, which means we have a major minor 7th, otherwise known as just a D7. Okay. However, it's not in root position. So in lead sheet symbol, we need to notate the bass note. The bass note is the lowest note, which in this case is C, so we're going to say D7 over C. This is the lead sheet symbol. D7 over C. Okay, so on the top, write in the lead sheet symbol, which in this case is D7 over C. And then underneath, you're going to put in the figured bass, To find out the figured bass, make your life easy. Look for the second. Where's the second? The second is on the bottom. Remember, when the second is on the bottom, you are in third inversion, which is the 4-2. So you're just going to write 4-2 under here. So D7 over C, 4-2 is your figured bass. So again, we have our lead sheet symbol, and then you have your figured bass symbol underneath. Let's do another one. So you can completely ignore this information here. We don't care about that. Just completely ignore that. That's telling you what key we're in. But right now, that's extraneous information that we don't need at this point. So I want you to completely ignore that. All you care about is the key signature itself. All right, let's take a look at the next one. First step, what is the bass note? What is the bass note? Well, space, 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 line. The line is the bass note. So the bass note, again, is D. Let's change it to root position. So I'm going to move D to the bottom here, like this. Okay. Again, I have an F sharp. There is a B flat and an E flat, but none of these notes are B or E. If you notice, this is exactly the same as this one here. See it? There's no difference. So again, we have D7, but this time the bass note's different, right? The bass note is F sharp, so we need to say D7 over F sharp. And now we need to determine the figured bass. To do that, we're just looking for the second. The second is on top, which means we're dealing with a 6-5, first inversion. The third is in the bass. Okay, let's look at the next one here. One more together. Example C. All right, let's identify the bass note again. Space, 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 line. Well, the bass note is a D. Let's build this in root position. Add in our flats. There is an A flat here. Now we need to determine the triad and the 7th. D, F, A flat. 1, 2, 3 half steps is a minor third. 1, 2, 3 half steps, minor third. We have a diminished triad. And D to C natural. 2 half steps below the octave is a minor 7th, which means we have a half diminished 7th. So here you have two choices. You can write D half diminished 7th, or you can write D minor 7, D minor 7 flat 5, both work. And what's the bass note? Well, it's the lowest note, F. So D half diminished 7 over F, or D 7 flat 5 over F are both correct. Now look for the second. To figure the figured bass, it's on top, which means you're dealing again with 6-5, otherwise known as a first inversion 7th chord. The third is in the bass. Okay. I hope this was helpful. I know we spent a lot of time going through this in a lot of detail. We could have gone in even more detail, actually. But if you need to review the other videos, check them out for sure. I hope this was helpful. I had planned to go through both pages in this video, but we just really took our time on that page. So I don't want this video to get any longer than it already is. So I will go over the graded assignment on another separate video. Again, I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.